Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. How are you doing today? I'm going to wait for my sound check here. Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. How are you doing today? I'm going to wait for my... There we go. Everything seems okay. I often forget to just do a monotone voice. If you yell in your... a little tip if you're going to start these things. If you raise your voice when you're looking for your sound check, Google's automatically searching for a tone for you. And if you use a softer voice, you'll get a more clarity in the total podcast, and then they'll adjust it from there at spots. But they do a pretty good job adjusting it and beginning. So if you, when you start, you should always just kind of use a flat, monotone, light voice, and do it that way. Hello, it's Sunday afternoon, and I usually do my podcast in the morning, but I just not motivated much. Not motivated much anymore, and but I'll still do a podcast a little. We'll talk about a couple of things, and hey, man, go your own way. Go your own way, and I hope your life's getting better and all that stuff. And the church of Mgtow is open and everything. So one of the things I see often debated in Mgtow, and people come at us mostly by the conspiracy theory guys, is Mgtow a psyop? And a psyop is kind of a weird thing, and it's a government agency. And I used to do that in the Army, so I kind of know what it is and what it's all about and everything. But is a psyop a bad thing? That's what I have to ask myself. A psyop from the beginning is a planned operation to convey selected information as indicators to an audience, and get the audience to flow your way using emotional and motivating them. And you can motivate, you can do motivational speaking, and you can sway the audience's decision. What audience? What we're talking about? A theater. In theater, the audience would be the enemy, and you want to sway how they feel. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. You want to motivate your troops in some certain ways, and you want to do things. If you want the enemy to leave the field and give up, that's more psyops, and that's what Mgtow's about. We got a planned operation. Well, we used to have a planned operation that conveyed information, indicators to the audience. Organizations can do this, groups can do this, or individuals can do this. And what the presupposition to a lot of these videos are is it's a bad thing. But just think for a second, what if Mgtow was a psyop? And it's a good thing, because we're conveying information and we're doing reasoning, and we're trying to ultimately sway behavior for the benefit of men. Is that a bad thing, if I say it that way? And truthful information is the kind of pinnacle thing when you're talking about psyops. When you look, if you were in the Army, and you'll know this, Veritas is what the psyop groups are. That's what they have on their patches. It's a horse with a head. I have a tattoo of it on here because I was in one of those groups when I was in the Army. I was in the second psyop, and the Veritas, the horse, and it's got a flame shooting out of his eye. He's having thoughts about what's going on and everything, and that's the symbol. I could probably show that to you if you want. Here, I'll share screen share with Infinity Screen. So you're probably seeing. Yeah, you're seeing that. When we do this, here's the horse right here. There's the first psyop. There's the second psyop. This is the one right here I belong to. And that was the symbol right now, a horse with a flame shooting out of his head. With Veritas, Veritas is truth. And that's what it means. There's Veritas. It means truth and stuff like that. And so when you start thinking about the truth of this thing, you start thinking about Mgtow as a truth. And what you're really trying to do is you're trying to sway people in a general direction to believe in what you believe in, believe in freedom, believe in men's rights. So when we talk about psyops, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. There seems to be this precondition that oh, Mgtow's is a psyop by the government. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be a good thing. We involve ourselves from the beginning, and I always thought from the beginning when we first started doing this, back in the days, any men back, late 90s and into the, 80s and everything that spoke about a woman in a bad way would automatically get removed from the internet. And we got our stuff doxxed. We got our stuff taken down. It was a horrible crime to speak like we speak today. So what we had to do is we developed a sort of rage policies. We had to rage out and be forceful, and we did that for reason because of there's a few philosophers that, don't say those with weak words or else you'll present weakness. So when you speak with strong words or else they're not going to listen. We're talking about we're talking about people that will not listen. They're crazy in the brain. They've been manipulated all their life. Blue pill men have been manipulated. They've been pre-programmed. So it's the job of so when you think about psyops, it's the job of a psyops person when they go into a village or whatever we were doing at that time. When we went in, we were trying to chain and win the hearts and souls through truth from people and do things like that. And that's what Mgtow does too. We have a planned operation. We used to be very well planned, but that's kind of fallen apart over the years with this Burgess individualism and stuff. That's why I always say Mgtow is a group. It's an organization that we work together for this common cause. And the common cause is to have men, be treated more fairly in the society, and women should take responsibility for their bodies, which is 100%. They're the only gender that can have children. When you logically think about this, take responsibility for you and your children. I can't have a child, even though I love being a father and I love being around the children and everything. It's not my child. I can't have a child. I'm just a sperm donator, and the law says after the sperm leaves my body, it's not mine anymore. So my body, my choice doesn't apply to men because we can't have children. So I'll accept those terms because I know I can't have a child and everything like that. And but with that becomes a certain amount of responsibility, and them are the things we start working on because the law is so one-sided. You would think that there's this, if you listen to lawyers and everything, you would think that you're having a baby too. That's what I call sympathetic pregnancy. That's delusional, crazy thinking. Sympathetic pregnancy is delusional, crazy thinking when men actually think they're having a child too. No, you're not. The child will share your DNA by an 86% margin, but it's a woman's body, it's her choice, everything and all that. But we don't want to go down that road too much and everything. Yeah, women and men aren't equal. Women can have babies, men can't have babies, and that's a great thing that they can do and reproduce and everything. But men can't do that. So what we're really doing here in Mgtow is we're working for a plan that's more fair for women. What happens is our utility gets extracted by the government in these awful ways through child support and alimony, and the woman gets treated like a child, and the welfare usually surrounds around single baby mamas and all that stuff, and men have to pick up that responsibility, even though it isn't our responsibility. I always say I can't have an abortion. I wish I could have an abortion, but I can't because I'm a male. What we'd really like is that law to be fair and say 70% of financial abortions, 70% of abortions are financial for financial reasons. They've done the studies on that. She can't afford it. There's no one there to take care of the kid. She knows she can't take care of the kid. So they abort the child. And so that's a good reason when it comes to women, but equality would state that, men could financially abort too. but we can't because somebody's got to pay for this child. With this inconsiderate female opened her legs up, and her body, her choice. She did that by choice, and she took in some DNA from another human being, and now she's boo hoo, But back to the Psyops things, that's what Mgtow is doing. We're just trying to make this thing fairer and more logical for men and everything. Would it be a bad thing if Mgtow was running a Psyop program? Would it be a bad thing? A program that was good for men, that reduced teen pregnancy, that reduced pregnancy all over and reduced the population, that cut through the guise of religiousism and civil religion. Would that be a bad thing? No, that wouldn't be a bad thing at all. But often when I hear this argument go on, it comes like, oh, Mgtow's running a Psyop and it's a bad thing. Would it be a bad thing? No, it would not be a bad thing. It's like when they started calling us monks Mgtows. We were like, okay, yeah, maybe, yeah, that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be a monk. A monk is a person that has total control over himself. A monk is a person that knows his limitations and knows exactly what he is, and he tries to get in touch with that inner self and inside of him. And he's a person that's enlightened pretty much through his actions, his celibacy, his whatever he's practicing, and it's an extreme form of I know it's an extreme form of abstinence sometimes, and then but those things you work through. So it's not really a bad thing being called a monk, and most of the times on this universe and in this planet would have been, oh, thank you. You're very monk-like. Yeah, I'm reserved. There's a quality about us. But today's pejoratives seem to. So Psyops is not really a bad thing. It's if you make it a bad thing through some pejorative term of some presupposition that it's attached to this evil group that doesn't exist. And that's why I talk about evil dragons sometimes. When Don Quixote was fencing with a dragon, he thought a windmill was a dragon. He needed to make that up for his love, and it's a very good book to read because it explains about blue pill guys and the extent that they're going to crazy. Don Quixote was going to kill that dragon and slay it for his beautiful I forget her name, Guinevere or whatever it was, and he was fencing with dragons. We do that around here. We draw up a fake enemy, and there's these conspiracy theories like, ooh, there's some group that's running the world, and then a lot of guys will go, oh, the Jewish bankers are running the world. That's all conspiracy. I don't believe one bit of that stuff. That's when you draw up a dragon in your head. You're doing the same thing that Don Quixote did. You believe that windmill, and you look silly and you look ridiculous to us sane people. So that was one of the topics I wanted to talk about today with is Psyop a bad thing? If we were running a Psyop, if there was this evil, if there was this cabal of Mgtows that were running a Psyop on the world, would it be a bad thing? Hell no, it wouldn't. It would just say that we're more intelligent men. If we were financed and backed, it would mean that we were financed too. And I wish I could get some financing to do Mgtow like feminists get for doing feminism. I can't get finance for being a Mgtow and being a part of this gender dynamic sort of situation where people socially are figuring out their roles in life and everything. That's another part that's unequal. We talk about these unequal things. Feminists get paid to be feminists. They get hired by football teams and basketball teams and to give their opinion. And that's where it's gone too far, to give their social opinion on things. But if a Mgtow comes up and this is my social opinion, and I think football teams should hire me, really, because I could go talk to those young men and saying, hey, you guys are making millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to be a target of every gold digger in the world. The average NFL player only stays married 2 years after his last contract. Doesn't that say something to you? I'd like to have this conversation with a room full of billionaires playing football, and have that conversation so I can spare them the pain of getting everything taken from them by a corrupt divorce court. And yeah, there's a real need for Mgtow within the NFL. There's a real need for Mgtow within college sports. There's a real need for Mgtow in baseball and basketball and men's sports, so these men can protect themselves from the risk of hypergamy and protect themselves from the risks of divorce and predatory courts and predatory capitalism and all those things. And I think I'd be a wonderful advocate for that. And I think the NFL should hire me, but they won't. They'll go hire Jessica Valente and some of those other girls to talk about feminism and why you don't kick the dog and punch your wife and stuff like that. And the Me Too things moving in and looking at these guys like they're red meat. Yeah, they are. They're looking at the NFL players and those paychecks, and the NBA players and the soccer players and whatever. I mean, if you're a Go player in China, I don't think this matters, but Go is a fun game. But that's their sport, by the way. And if these Me Too people and these predatory lawyers and predatory divorce systems and predatory capitalism is looking at these men that are making vast amounts of money, most cases 4 to 5, 6 up to $20 million a year for their talents. So I do think there's a reason why we do these Mgtow things. And yeah, if we are a psyop, that wouldn't be a bad thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing at all. But and I do believe on the other end of this thing that there is some kind of pressure from the government to remove Mgtow, to get rid of Mgtow. We feel that pressure around here all the time. And I don't think it's I do think people get paid for their political opinions, to sway one party for the other party. The alt-righters came in here and they said, "Oh, everybody in Mgtow has to be a part of the Republican Party," and they did a good job. That's a psyop. If it's a government agency and it's a Republican Party coming into Mgtow and running these Howard Dares and these Chris Cantus and all these alt-righters that were coming around for a while and running that on you, they were running a psyop, and their intentions were getting you to vote their way. And they don't care. A lot of Mgtow has become that too. When I talk to people from the Democratic Party, or I talk to people out there now, they think Mgtow is basically every single one of us has to be the alt-right. And I go, no, I'm very liberal in the way I think. I'm a very liberal person in general. I think I fall in the moderate Democrat camp, where I believe in unions and I believe in a strong people's rights, and that I'm not one of those raving lunatics, but I try to stay in the middle and think about things logically. Just a pragmatic Democrat, I guess. And I don't have to be a Republican to be a Mgtow. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I think it's so when this alt-right group came in with Milo and all that garbage, everybody goes, hoo-ha, Trump's gonna crush feminism for us. But how's that going? He's going to drain the swamp, which I don't think any of those people know what that actually means. I mean, because he pretty much filled the swamp up with, and so they ran their psyop on us, and I can see other parties that want to swing votes within Mgtow. And Mgtow is a pretty influential group in men's rights in the manosphere. I thought the Democratic Party, if they would ever dump Pelosi and start thinking about things logically, you want to carry Mgtow. You would want to sway your vote. And we see a lot of Democrats now, single Democrats becoming running for office, and are questioning why you have to be married. And that's progressivism. They're questioning, why do you have to be married if you're a president? Why has it always been that every president has been married? We get some argument about that, but I think it would be in their best interest to come and talk to Mgtows and talk to us about our ideas and everything, but they won't because of the crazy side. And there's both parties. Pretty much you have the alt-right and those what you used to call the Tea Partiers, were just fucking nuts, and then we got the far liberal end of that are just crazy, and you get all these somewhere in between. Most of you guys land, and I don't care which party you're from. If you're a moderate Republican or a moderate Democrat and you're a logical person and you swing and you flow your vote back and forth between the best candidate that serves your interest, that's fine. You have every right in America, in any country in the world, you have every right for your vote and everything. You don't have to be this or have to be this at Mgtow. But we're getting a little off the base here. We'll go back to the Psyops. Yeah, they ran a Psyops on us, and that was okay, you know. And but if Mgtow is running a Psyop, but that thing's gone butt crazy lately, and I get attacked like almost daily because I have you know, I have liberal values. I like to listen to people and hear people out and stuff like that. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean a bad thing. I tend to flow between socialist, and I see a real need for to rise up the poor and stuff like that and get them working. And that's only going to come through programs. How else are you going to do it? You're going to whip them or beat them, and like in the Egyptian times. Yeah, that's called slavery. But yeah, I think we can all agree that being more well-centered in all of these stuff is good. But we're talking about Psyops today, and we're talking about, would it be a bad thing if Mgtows got together, you know? And I think it was more of that when back in the beginning, and I was around during that time because I'm old. I am old. But yeah, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was no such thing as Mgtow, and the men were going nuts with this flow. Everything was just going crazy back then, and we decided that the only way we're going to do this is have a plan on how to do it. You know, how would we do that? We have to plan operations. We have to work together. We have to convey this information that we're talking about through Mgtow. And that's not a bad thing, because that's for men. You know, these things get hijacked. These things get entryism and all that stuff. I know, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, would that be a bad thing? So that was my sort of argument against, is Mgtow a psyop? Why does it have to be a negative connotation? And why can't it be a positive connotation? Why can't you accept the work that most men did to put into this program to, you know, and say, hey, good job, buddy. You know, at least give a good job, buddy. You know, and it's like the men before you, there's hundreds and thousands of them that, you know, did this. And he kept us going through the most awful of times where we were just getting called gay, and we got called all sorts of horrible things and everything. And it still happens. I know today it still happens every day almost. These blue pill men are fervently defending the marriage cult. the cult of marriage, and it's pretty crazy. And I think it'll get better if we all work together and we devise a plan to do this thing. But the amount of cruelty I see in Mgtow lately is the cruel things people say with hiding behind an avatar. Most of these men don't have the courage or bravery to, you know, come out and say, hey, this is me, and I'm going to speak in for you. I'm going to do this thing. Most men don't do the podcasting thing. They'll never come in front of you and say, hey, I think I'm a normal guy and I'm credible, and they'll hide behind an avatar and toss little snippets of snarkiness out, and they think that's their Mgtow, which is just freaking crazy. But that comes into something we were talking about. I'll give Mgtow values. This Mgtow and MH, they were talking about dogs and animals, and they were talking about sentient beings. What is a dog sentient? Can it feel emotions? Yeah, we know dogs have emotions. Dogs have feelings. And my thought was is we're asking the wrong questions, because what we're really doing is we're looking to ourselves on this. We're looking for a question for ourselves. Are dogs sentient beings? And this will all flow back to the Psyops thing after I get down. You'll see. I always do that. You know, I do that. And our dogs, are they just meat connections and the sum of its parts and electrical connections inside of a dog? You know, are they less than human? And that's what we're asking. Is a dog or an animal less than human? Back in the 1850s and 40s and 30s, there was Albert Schweitzer. Albert Schweitzer came up with a term. It was unconscious cruelty. Unconscious cruelty. And what he asked is, does the animal suffer? It was an ideological point that he had. And it's not, we're asking, does the cow suffer, or does the chicken suffer? It's for ourselves. Are we asking, does the cow suffer? Like, does it? Because there's a point behind this whole thing. There's an ideology behind this, and if you go take it down far enough, I'll give the ideology at the end. But we'll talk about it. Does it suffer the same as you suffer? And yeah, a dog, a cat, a cow, and everything suffers the same way you suffer. It feels pain the same way you feel. It may even have hurt feelings without no way of articulating it. Another philosopher, and some of you know it and everything, the word unconscious cruelty comes. It was made famous again in the 60s and the 70s by Bobbie Gentry. She wrote a song about Billy Joe McAllister, and he jumped off this bridge. And it was suicide. He committed a suicide. And what Bobbie Gentry was, she wasn't a country girl, really. She went to UCLA College of Psychology, and she just was pretty good at the guitar and that kind of twang voice that she had. So she wrote a song about it. And what she was asking was, everybody focuses on objects, and we know this objects thing. We focus on objects in life, and the song was about she was spotted a week before throwing something off the bridge that he jumped off of, and everybody was like, you know, is that something? Does that mean something? No, don't focus on the object. Focus yourself on how the family was talking about the suicide victim. Like he was dirt, like he was nothing. It's like, oh, those boys from up on that ridge, they ain't no good, and he's not worth anything. That's unconscious cruelty. We do that when we see suicide victims. Oh, you know, he wasn't strong enough to live in this world, so it's good that he, you know, we do that as humans, and we relate this to the idea of a dog. Is a dog sentient being? A lot of people will kick a dog or a horse or slap a donkey, whatever you want to talk about. They'll just be cruel to these things, not realizing that they do have emotions, they do suffer, and they do feel those things. And we do this with people too. People do this to other people. The trolls, you look around here and there's trolls, and they say the most horrible things. And that's unconscious cruelty. They think it's kecky and snazzy, and they think they're the most snarky people in the world, and I'm just practicing my special brand of nihilism, you know, and they think that's kecky and cool, but it's just unconscious cruelty. And we do this to Muslim Americans. We do this to homeless people. We do this to suicide victims. We do this in a micro way. We do this in a macro way when we invade a country, and we're just going to take all the resources, and these people mean nothing. It's just unconscious cruelty. It's the same thing as a dog or a cat. And we have to start asking ourselves questions about what we do in this thing. And there's a reason why there's a philosophy that kind of goes down this. People have these tendencies not to even consider other people's. It's the way I talked about this with aware and awareness. I'm aware that there's a doorknob or a thing, but when a human walks in the room, are you aware that that person feels and thinks the same way you do? Are you aware that there's another person looking at you like you looking at him? and there's a whole personality and a soul, and it's just like you have, just like me. I feel myself, and I feel that I'm important, and I have such an ego and everything, and there's mental formations that are going on in my brain, and I'm conscious, and I'm a sentient being. But what we do with dogs and that stuff is we're asking ourselves a question: are we a sentient being? And we do this in such, it's what I say. You ever hear the term God is in the smile of a dog? That term means a lot, because it means when you look at that and you ask that question, everybody asks that question all the time: is that a sentient dog? Do they feel? Do they think? Do they have that? Is it a sum of all of its parts? All these questions we ask of this, and what you're really saying is, am I measuring my own humanity against that? So am I sentient? That's what you're asking yourself. I am sentient, so you're putting yourself in the God position. So in that, we get kind of snarky. Well, yeah, God's in the God. You can see God in the smile on a dog, because that's what you're doing. You're asking yourself that question. Am I sentient compared to this thing? And we should treat animals well and everything. And I love my dog. I love Dougie. And I know he comes from an abusive family. And I used to have to tell people, don't touch Dougie. Don't hit Dougie. Dougie is weird about those things. And because he's been abused when he was a puppy, and he was left outside most of his life. And until Joe got him and treats him good. And but what we're really asking ourselves, can you see your own humanity in the dog? Can you see God in the smile of a dog? Can you see yourself? How better? And some people hate it when I say, am I a God? Are we humans godlike in ourselves? We are sentient beings, and we're the only ones, as far as I can see. And that's pretty impressive. Yeah, we are the alpha predator, the apex predator. We're the sentient beings on this planet, and I am the only one, and that's great. But can we practice that with each other? No, obviously not. I see people look at. I always give this term. There's two kinds of people in this world. I was driving with my friend. I give this story, and my friend looks up and there was this homeless encampment up on a bridge, and he's like, "Man, I got to call someone. I don't want to see that." And I says, "Hey, stop!" And I ran off real fast, and I gave the guy $5, and it's a little encampment there. And I ran back, and I said, "I don't want to see it either. I'm going to help." So his idea was, he doesn't want to see it. He wants it gone. He wants these people gone off the face of the earth. He wants them moved out, so his drive to work is more pleasant, and he doesn't have to see that. I don't want to see it by helping. And there's two kinds of people. You'll notice that with people, these utilitarian-minded people, just they see everything as a challenge, and they see everybody as less. But that's what the dog too. Do you see the dog? Can't you look at that human being in awareness and have a little awareness? Can you see your humanity in him? And if you can't, if you're one of those people, and that's what I wanted to get at with this story here and this thing, Dougie, as much as I'd like to think he is, I know that he doesn't feel, he has no compassion for me. He has no empathy for me. I know this because I can give him a can of food, and I can make myself a sandwich and sit down with my sandwich, and he'll eat his can of food, and he'll come over, and if I leave, he'll grab my sandwich, and he'll do that day after day after day with no thought about whether I would die of starvation or not. And he's very uncompassionate when it comes. He's just a dog. He doesn't have compassion. He doesn't have empathy. He doesn't share those thoughts that we share. And that's how you measure people in this world. The object of sentient beings, the only measurement we can have is we can be aware of other people around us. We're aware that they're human too, but with certain people, They're like the dog. If you leave the room, they'll grab your sandwich and eat it with no compassion. So, which brings up an interesting question to me. Are there people out there that aren't sentient? Are there people that don't care about other people? Are there people that are like lizard people? And I always bring this up, lizard people. It's just an idea. It's not that they're actually lizard people. It's that they're on sentient beings on a planet where they share no compassion like the dog. And I think if they start acting like the dog, then no, they're not the same sentience. And I see a lot of, when I look at the vast amount of things that happen around here with the psyops and everything, and are we running a program so we can show these other people? These other people have no compassion for the homeless men that are out there. These other people have no compassion that they're putting you in a slavery position. These blue pill people, they want to steal your money. They want to give it to the government. They want the government to steal your money for them. I mean, they want all of, and they're very uncompassionate. They don't care if I starve to death, just like Dougie. They don't care if I starve to death on a street homeless. And if we're going to measure sentient beings and we're going to measure this stuff by that kind of by that bar, yeah, there's a certain percentage of people in this world that are on sentient. They're lizard people, and they're running around there. And the measurement of that is, can they be aware that you're a human too? And I thought that was a great philosophical point to that argument. Is a dog, should you, Albert Schweitzer talked about this in a lot of detail, and a lot of people talked about this and I think it comes down to unconscious cruelty. If you see people displaying unconscious cruelty, you must go to the other end of the bar and say, yeah, that person may be a little less human than you. We see that a lot around the internet. We see attacks on Mgtows, and they'll say the darndest things to us, and they'll keep it going. And you have to start wondering about the sanity of some of these people in the blue pill world. The blue pill world doesn't care if a male starves to death. He'll send them off to war as long as the blue pill world's getting what they want from the male. They're sucking the utility out of you, just like Dougie. Dougie, as long as Dougie's getting my sandwich, he doesn't care if I'd starve to death. I can give him a can of food and show total act of compassion. I got to pay for that can of food. I show him total act of compassion, which is about $1.36 a day for me, to feed him, and then he'll eat that, but he'll also eat mine too. And if I died on that floor, you know what he would do? He'd eat me. But that's what these blue people are like to me. When I look at these men, these beggars, and these white knights, and all these guys that don't have any Mgtow in them, I often look at them like, yeah, if I died, you would take my boots and go through my pockets, wouldn't you? And that's the way I think of these people. You don't care. We see the tournamenting for the girls. If I did have a woman in my life, and I don't keep women in my life for that reason, you would be that cackling hyena that would say horrible things about me. Than blue pill people to try to tournament for her, to try to impress her, to make her think that we see this with these PUAs and these incels. They're always attacking us. They have this unconscious cruelty going on, and that's how I measure people. Yeah, most people. You're right, Mike. Most people lack a higher consciousness when it comes to these. Are you aware? That's a question I ask all you guys all the time. Are you aware of the other people around you? Are you aware that they have feelings? Are you aware of that stuff? And that's how I measure my friends and everything, because I can see in these people like you, the people that come around here, that it's a higher intelligence. It's a higher capacity to understand things in a world. And I don't want to be around those 86 IQ blue pill people. I just don't want to argue. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. They'll never argue is stupid. That's what we do. So with these things, with the psyops and are we running a psyop? Yes, we are. A matter of fact, yes, we are. And we've been running it since about the year 2000. And the psyop is a planned is a planned operation to convey our information about things that I just talked about. It's about, you people are cruel. You people are disgusting. You people send millions of men away a year of the war, and you kill them, and you don't even think about them as human beings. Men are working machines. You send them up on scaffolds and buildings, and you don't pay them very well, and you rely on their strong backs to move your food. And you tax them at a rate so you can have things for your children, for your, should have schools for you. These people are the biggest thieves in the world. That's what we talk about when we talk about, these people that would, tax you and try to take your house so their kid can go to school, and never thinking that they can educate their own family. They have their streets, the pit, the little holes filled in, and have someone come around and cut their grass. And the way you think about, the way they think about the Hispanic people, they're just, oh, he'll cut my grass for me. And these people aren't people that work properly in society either. I mean, they've never given any time to the farm. I always say I don't know, it's very Maoistic. You should have to work for 8 years on a farm, and then you can say, yes, I deserve to eat. And I think all people should work 8 years on the farm, whether you're retarded or whether you're the president of a corporation, whether you were born with extreme riches, you should still have to work on that farm so you appreciate what we have here in this society, in this community, where we all work together and we have food up at the stores so you can go get it and bring it home. People with this sort of unconscious cruelty that they do, they want to kick dogs, they beat women, they're not very friendly to be around. If you died, they would, take your boots, that old Western, is boots any good? That's unconscious cruelty. They can't see the human there. And I do think the dolly diddlers too they have this thing, because I talked about there's 3 levels of that, and they look at people like they're inanimate objects. Like if you can't tell the difference between that and this, they would hit a tree, and then and they get off on that, and they would think it's the same thing as, because they have no ability to dissect and analyze and feel a little empathy. And, most of my youth, I was that way too. When I was in the Army, I had no compassion for people. I had to put all that stuff away and everything. And it took philosophy, and it took Mgtow to bring this compassion back to me, where I can feel for people. And I'm very, very enthusiastic about it now. And I love people. I love my neighborhood, and I go around, and I love the festivals, and I'm a better person to be around and everything. But that's what Mgtow's about. It's about taking that deep look down into your soul, sweeping out all that garbage, and becoming a better person. And not I no longer have any desire to impregnate a woman and even be around them, because I do notice the cruelest people in the world are women. They're often the ones that are just berating their males, and then for weeks and weeks on end. I listen to it in some of these houses around here. The women, they just yap, and I go, oh man, that's so cruel to do to that man. He's the guy going off to work, and he's the guy providing everything, but they're yap, yelling. Nothing's ever good enough. And I had to go through that in my marriage. Nothing was ever good enough, and I was never good enough, and we fall for those things. Because it's the Mgtow message, it's the MRA message. We're just utilities. We're just they look at us with this unconscious cruelty, like somehow they can't be aware that we're people too, and it causes quite a bit of turmoil in Mgtow. And there are people, I just call them lizard people, because they're soulless individuals, and that's what I do. That's why I believe in lizard people, because they're soulless individuals. We see that with the party members too, in a lot of governments. They're like they have money for war, and they have money for their rich friends, and they have money for oil, and as long as they're making money, is fine. But when it comes down to a social project, oh, their pockets are empty. When it comes down to feeding the poor homeless, or making shelters for men instead of leaving them out in the cold. And I think about this a lot now, because winter's coming here, and the most men will die in the month of November and December, and they'll freeze to death out in those things because of unconscious cruelty, because of these politicians that have no souls. They want to have wars, and our president now has bumped that up to, I don't know what the huge amount that we're spending on military, but their pockets are empty when it comes down to the men that are homeless, that we care about, the things that we care about. And of course, they don't want Mgtow. Of course, they don't want Mgtow to be around because we make them look at that horror. We make them look at their cells, and we make them look at the souls, the worthless, dark souls inside of these people that would steal from you, so that they can drive around and fly around in planes and go to golf outings every day and do that shit. These people are soulless. So that was my chat for today. There's two, the Psyops and Mgtow. And Psyops and Mgtow is a real thing, and we should really work on it hard, because it's the way we're going to win. And if you think they're going to let us just stop all their, if you think they're just going to let us just progress, because they lose the utility. Every time they lose the utility of a male, they lose a couple $1,000,000. Me, you, Derek, and Mike, and Lucid D. Every time they lose us and we ghost from the society, they lose money, because they can no longer take that utility and use you. And there's ways they do it. They do it through marriage. They do it through sex. They do it through your desires. They're giving you something that's worthless, that split V, and they're saying work all your life so you can have that a few times in your life. That's silly, and it's ridiculous. And they're selling you junk bonds and snake oil. But they're getting rich, and they're billionaires, and they don't have to do nothing. They don't even have to work on a farm. And then they're the same people that complain about, they're the same people that will complain about our food program, our food distribution program to the poor, but they have never worked on the farm. They have never given their 8 years to the farm. And most of these people that are poor have already given 8, 9, 10, 20 years working at, stocking shelves, or working on farms, and low-paying jobs, and the proletariat, and those people we talk about. And these are 90% of the people, everybody around you most of the time, because none of you live in Hollywood. None of you live on Rodeo Drive. They wouldn't even talk to you. No, they don't want to work on a farm. They just want to complain and keep you working. I mean, that's the things I think about, and because I have compassion, I have empathy, and I love each and every one of you. When I see a guy simping and doing that stuff, I have compassion for him. And I never want that compassion and that what they'll call that liberalism or whatever, to leave Mgtow. You don't have to be a Republican. You don't have to be a utilitarian, and you don't have to be that cruel individual. You can be whatever you want to be in here. I don't care. Politics means nothing to me. You can be a union leader, or you can be a baker, or I have the utmost respect for all men. The only thing I don't have respect for is these progenitors of unconscious cruelty, where they can look at another human being and look at him and go, that's a slave. There's certain punishments, and the punishment has always been the same from the times of Egyptian times up to our Civil War. People that keep slaves die. That's the punishment for that. And I don't know if it comes from some hidden God, or if that's just a rule on our natural rule on our planet. If you do that to other people, your whole life's going to get bad for you. And it goes over and over, and we reciprocate this. We look at Greece, we look at Egyptian times, we look at we look at in England and what they did to the poor back then, we look at all sorts. It just reciprocates itself, and these same evil people keep popping up. These same evil people that would look at another human being and just look at him like the dog, like Dougie looks at me. I'm just a utility for him. I'm just a I'm just a can layer, and he would eat my sandwich, and if I died, he'd eat me. And he would never think that was Joe. That's the difference between us sentient creatures. Compassion, empathy, and never lose that, man. I hope none of you ever lose that, because that's a cold, and it's a dangerous, and it's a dark place to be in life. And I'm so glad that Mgtow gave that back to me. That's one of the things that Mgtow gave back to me, and I hold that dearly now. But with that, I want to get off here and go up on my way. Hey, the Browns tied the Pittsburgh Steelers today, my favorite team, the Browns. And it wasn't a loss, but it wasn't a win. And the NFL's on today. You can watch football again. And it's a great Sunday. And I hope you're all, like each and every one of you, I hope you're all going your own way, man. Go your own way. And but often realize that, yeah, we are doing something here. We're running a Psyop for the betterment of men. And that's not a bad thing. Get aboard. Become a better person. Look deep down inside. And then you better smile and be happy. No matter what happens around you, you'll be okay with yourself. And that's the gold. And I'm out. Thanks a lot, Mgtows, and love each and every one of you. And I hope this meant something to you today. And thanks a lot for coming around. And most of all, man, thanks a lot for being a Mgtow, my Mgtow brother.